Difficult Corners. It's Dave Thackeray, it's Word of Mouth, it's Copy Shop Live. Thanks for joining me on day 5 of this incredible week. I hope your December has started very well. We're on the 3rd already. That's 3 windows into the Advent calendar. I've not even opened one yet, not even broken the seal. I don't know what's wrong. It's strange. You get into that kind of lull, that malaise, don't you? Unless you're abroad in a very hot place where, you know, you get out in the middle of the morning and it's baking hot and this is a difficult thing, isn't it? It's like extremes of scale, the poles, the spectrum. It's like if you're really cold, you don't want to be getting up in the morning. If it's really hot, you're sweating your knackers off. Last thing you want to do is work. It's difficult. It's a dilemma. I want to be in the middle. We want that. And we're going to talk about the middle very shortly because I wanted to cover today a little bit about persuasion. As Robert Cialdini calls it, he had 2 fabulous books, one called Influence and one called Persuasion, which was fantastic. I actually thought the second one was better than the first. But like pop music and like films, the sequel is always disappointing. So Cialdini bounced back there with some style. But the middle is actually a great place to be when it comes to persuasion. And one of the key tenets of influence was all about the fact that when you're going into battle with a negotiation or a pitch, or if you're trying to win a sale, and you go in with something that is wildly unrealistic in terms of price, and we'll talk more about price, but if you go in and you highball and your client is willing to at least talk, they're engaged, they're interested in what you're trying to sell, and you go and you go, okay, well, this is $75,000 and they were expecting to pay 9. And this is used very, very commonly in home selling as well as any other line of work, and it could be used online, and you'll see a lot of the time on price plans where you've got the starter package, you've got the professional plan, you've got enterprise or such and such and such. And if you've got the Economist did it as well, where they pitched things very high, and then they made the original, what they actually wanted to sell you, very, very modest, which was the right price, but very modest in comparison. And therefore they were able to sell the sale that they wanted to make, because that higher price was so audacious. If you go and look at any price plan on the web these days, you'll generally have 3 tiers. You might have a 4th, which is like a contact us, and that's the sort of the secret squirrel one. That's the one that causes them a lot of work, even in SaaS markets, software as a service. They don't really want to deliver that plan. It's a lot of money, but it's an awful lot of work. It's a stretch. So if you've got like the plan that you want to sell, you've also got a premium plan, which might add just one feature or one service, one bag of bollocks that nobody really wants. Throw that in at a higher end and then say, but actually what we really want to sell you is this. And people have that predilection to want to go with you on that because they feel like they're getting a really good deal. So that's the notion of persuasion, but there's so much more to cover. So we've got 2 great things to do today. A is to wish you a wonderful weekend, because we're nearly there, let's be honest. It's not just the 3rd of December, it's a Friday. It's a big deal. And I know a lot of us have had challenging weeks. So, you know, it's always good to see the finish line in sight and know that, unless we're working on a Saturday, which, you know, us freelancers do have a tendency to do, I should be writing about pumps this weekend, because this is the world of rock and roll. You know, if I'm not at Aldi on a Saturday night, then you can bet I'm going to be knee deep in wastewater, hypothetically, metaphorically, on a weekend. So a couple of things to cover today. We have got, without further ado, let me share my screen. We have got to do the usual generator, which everybody loves. I'm obviously over-regular putting a little bit there. But I'm just going to chuck the persuasion stuff down to the bottom, and I'm going to get the person who does not exist. Oh, this is Charlie. Hi, Charlie. Charlie's got a receding hairline. I feel his pain. And he's also in very close proximity to either a shaved dog or a guy called Johnny. And he appears to be lying down in the bathroom of a public swimming pool. God bless him. Can't imagine what he's been up to, but that's his choice. And as we know, he's not real anyway. So the first thing we're going to do is I just do it the other way around this time. The sense of anticipation and excitement is palpable, isn't it? So let's hit it. See who's coming up next. Right. Oh, Right. Okay, I recognise this guy. He's an EU ambassador. Yeah, his name is Mikolos, and he comes from the small Greek island of Kefalonia. Well, I should say his origin story is he lived in the hills and was the son of a very successful goat shepherd, and he really worked his way up. You know, he got himself into tourism. Kefalonia being a wonderfully beautiful island in the Greek cluster, the Greek archipelago of islands, spans hundreds of miles, yeah, he was selling some sort of goat byproduct on the coast, and somebody picked him up and said, "Hey, you've got a really good patter about you. Have you read Influence by Robert Cialdini?" He was like, "Devoured it, man." Completed it, and right. Well, we've got a vacancy on the Greek panel of representatives over on the European Union, and we've got a butter mountain, and we need somebody to sell it into to Europe. Whack a French name on it, because people obviously prefer French, or Irish. Call it Kefalonia Gold, and you know, we'll go ballyhoo. So yeah, that's how Mikolos got his break. So let's see what he's going to be buying. I bet he wish he could get his hand on them, but he has got a car. He's awesome car. Right, so Kindle Kids, this is interesting. Let's get all this together, shall we? So it's Mikolos. He's a EU representative. Who is ambassador? I should have said ambassador of Greece. Okay, and then we've got Kindle Kids. That's wonderful. How do we connect the dots? Oh shit! Can I get that back? Well, do you know what? It's all right, because I'm going to go to Amazon and look at it anyway. I'd rather sell that virtual wine tasting. Kindle Kids. Let's see what we've got in store today. Right. This is interesting. I've never seen this product before. So you've got, and everything's on a bit of a go slow today. Can only apologise. Right. So 1,000 books. This is great. Okay. Well, fabulous. I might read one of these, but I don't need it. Some of these reviews completely out of touch. Younger generation to give them smartphones. Don't blah blah. No, really disappointed. Oh, shut up. It's pixel version of a book, for God's sake. Right, kids more than ever need education, don't they? You know, if you don't want little Charlie roaming the streets. You don't, do you? I'm just putting some ideas. Right, so kids, right, let's just think. Let's get some keywords together. Let's get some kids' words together. Because this is how everything begins. And this is where I'm going to try and bring persuasion into this exercise. And I'm going to lean on some of those ideas that I've got further down as to how we can pull together some sort of compelling message that is high on persuasion, low on boredom. So let's look at these things, right? So check out, can I jump in front of you? What that was talking about was, if you give people a reason to help, they will more likely help you than if you just ask for the help. So for example, if there's some sort of reason, I don't know, so say if you're selling cars and you've got somebody on a seesaw, they're kind of tipping in your direction. If you were to say, and I've before as well, on Selling Sunset, where you say, oh, do you know, we've had a really difficult month this month at the dealership. You know, numbers are down. We've not got any of the semiconductors we need to build cars, so therefore we haven't got many new cars. Here's an interesting one, actually. I've tied this up. I brought this to the fore as well. We've not got many new cars. You deserve a new car. Right, okay, so turn it around so the customer feels empowered. You deserve a new car, and we remarkably have still got a couple of brilliant examples of this model in stock, right? So, you know, scarcity, fabulous, that key thing to persuasion. But I've had a difficult few months myself. Thankfully, things are starting to turn around, and if I'm able to sell a car today, I will, for the last 6 months not been able to do this, I will be able to hit my targets. And if I can hit my targets, I can get my son back into music lessons, right? You know, this is just sanctity. This is like the Bible of car sales. So let's break that down. We've got scarcity, we've got doing someone a favor, and we've got law of reciprocity. That's the other key thing. I'm just going to bury deep into that as well. So 3 fantastically compelling reasons for your buyer to buy from you. If you can find some way of throwing in that whole sort of price plan thing as well, and say, yeah, we've got a super warranty that includes tires and replacement exhausts, and if your piston broke, we can replace that too. But we have got on special this month the super premium plan for 50% less. The only difference is you don't get the exhaust replaced, and in any case your exhaust is guaranteed for 5 years anyway, so you're on the home and dry, you're on the home straight, right? So I reckon you should get that plan. They're like, whoa, I'm almost getting the same for half the price, bring me on. Kindle Kids then. So the thing with kids, right, is that if you're right, what we know from research is that if you start kids super early on a path, there's a story about a Polish educational psychologist who had 3 girls and experimented on his family to figure out if he could turn his babies into geniuses. And he set about using chess because it's measurable. There is a scale of progress, of achievement, of efficiency. Attaining Grandmaster obviously shows that you are the best at what you do. There aren't many fields where you can continuously rise up the ranks in an official sense. So he got his 3 girls into chess at a super early age. I think one of them started at 4. And his idea was that you make learning entertaining beyond just getting them into the fascination of something new. So, you know, learning has to be fun, and that's what keeps people on the straight and narrow and keeps them focused, determined to achieve something. I'm not entirely sure where this is going, but bear with me. Anyway, so he ended up raising, and he said this formula works for everyone, really. He laid it out in a book, and it stayed untranslated in Polish for like 20 years. Crazy. It's out now. I can tell you about it if you're vaguely interested. I suspect you won't be. But this formula works reliably, and the reliable formula is that the earlier you get children started, you think it's stupid, but you know, kids can't start reading early enough, and the web gives you every tool you need to get them into the letters from a very early age. Once they start recognizing basic words, you'll find they're obsessed with understanding short books. That's where Kindle Kids comes in. Not only do they have a world of books on tap, we'll give you 1,000 books we've judged to be fantastic for little minds grow. Choose from, and then we'll have a look at the Kindle Kids ebook reader, just £9, yet it's packed with priceless reading. You'd be daft not to buy it. It's a gift, lasts a lifetime. Right, okay. I mean, it's just short stuff that will sort of get people thinking about. It's a big ask, isn't it, selling something of that sort of price to a parent? But this time of year, where does Mykolos come into this? So, what I would do is I would remind people, I would reflect on people, the difficulties they've had growing up and how their lives would have been immeasurably improved with the addition of this tool. So remember, speak to a grandparent. You speak to everybody. You can have a dedicated page. Landing pages come 10 a penny these days. You can have thousands of landing pages, and if you name them right and you optimize them for SEO, and if we want to go into SEO at any point on Copy Shop Live, ping me. Don't be shy. I think we're old enough here now to figure out how it works. Once you've got all those things done, you can then create 10 pages for 10 different, I hate to use the word persona after what we've seen this week, but 10 different personas, grandparents, parents, aunties, uncles, friends, because they've all got a different view on the world. Their optics differ considerably. So if you're able to kind of look into, you could just use YouGov just to sort of understand a little bit about the habits, behaviors of these kinds of people at different kinds of age. But let's take Mikolos as a grandparent. Remember growing up when we had dusty old books from vintage authors. Reading was challenging. It was easy to find interesting alternatives. Kids these days love being connected. They grow up quicker than ever, and they want to show their peers they've got experience first. The best way to get to learn is through books. They take you to another world, and if you want to experience a different world of learning, Kindle Kids is where it's at. No more Chaucer and Charles. We've got some of the latest YA and exciting fiction to get your little ones thinking big. Right, so whatever. But anyway, what I'm saying is, and this is just off the bat, obviously, but what I'm saying is, think about the challenges. You will know this. We've talked about the Sugarman approach before and the slippery slide. You will know that this is all about overcoming objections. How do we get over the price point? Well, the price point is over $1,000, and you would have to be a menace not to think about that as being less than a penny a book. Even if 10 of them are absolute dolts, the 11th one is worth 11p. You've got over that objection. The objection of something that is the unknown is, right, well, we know that it's going to be helpful because it's educational and it's inspiring and it's in the same format that children the world over are spending most of the time already. They're used to the user controls. They're used to the function of it. You don't need to teach a kid how to use a Kindle. It's just goddamn straightforward. I'm starting to get emotional now because it's Friday. Right, let's go back to the persuasion side of things. And yeah, we've talked about the unrealistically high negotiations. Right, I want to finish on one because we're getting late now. It's nearly 8:20. Thanks for bearing with. It's all right. Your weekend starts in a minute. You're fine. If we say something, we do it, and how our actions define us. That saying. If there was Tony Robbins worked really well with this, and a lot of the self-help books work really well on this. And the theory is that if you write out what your goals are, physically write it out, type it out, print it out, put it somewhere that's visible, then those goals are more likely to be achieved than if you just keep them in your mind. So if you physically express them, if you tell a friend, if you get an accountability partner, if you create a mastermind group, if you write them and put them on the wall, if you see them every day, and we talk about the attitude of gratitude and stuff, if you're actually physically engaging with something and it's out there and you can see it, and it's a repetition then you are more likely to attain it than if it was just implied. And that works really well with persuasion as well. You know, if you have people, if they were at your showroom and you had them explain their biggest problems with their current car, or the biggest problems with their current house, or if they were at a supermarket and you had a supermarket FM and you were able to if people are hungry and you were able to make them salivate with the smell of bread, which a lot of supermarkets used to do. I think health and safety means you can't do it anymore because some people were allergic to the smell of bread or something, but whatever. But you can do things, can't you? Certain techniques, certain styles, certain emotional touch points and triggers that will help people think in a different way and actually motivate them to achieve something and to carry out a call to action, rather than just assume that they're going to do it because they come in here and the reason that they're here is they're going to do it. No, they need to take an extra step, and that is how your actions define you. Really important. And Mikolos, for not this head agreement, you know, some sort of parable or some sort of copywriting. Remember when you were out on the hills and, you know, and you were like, oh, I wish I could break out of this and achieve something myself, but all I've got is a dusty copy of Ulysses by, oh God, James Joyce. You don't want life because you open your mind, you don't want to close it. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to switch this goddamn screen sharing nonsense off. Thanks for being here today. Sorry about the cat, but you know, I just felt like it today. It just felt like the right thing to do. See me on Monday and we'll have lots more fun, lots more focus. And for now, have a great weekend. Thanks for joining. Speak to you soon.